kina semdol ka ke mo fa seda.
Hey everyone, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. This is Talking Stations, the midweek show. Joining me today, new host, Aezekiel, Interstellar Expeditionary Group. How's it going, Oz?
Hey Silver, hey everyone.
Glad to have you. And also today our guests are Dawn Rhea of Goonswarm Federation, SIG leader of Theta. Hey Dawn.
Hello.
And Aezekiel, or Zeke as he is known in Vindictive Alliance down in Legacy Space. He's a Sky Marshal and a good FC there. How's it going, Aezekiel?
Hi guys, good evening.
Today we want to talk about home defense and offense, as it were, and what that looks like for both large groups and smaller groups as it comes after Blackout and Sino changes. The way you defend space and your oracles and your supers changed quite a bit after that. But before we get into that, I want to introduce Oz some more. Oz, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, who you fly with, where you come from, how long you've been playing Eve, all that good stuff?
Yeah, sure, man. Great to be here. So I've been playing Eve since more or less day one. It came out when I was already out of college, so I'm really old, as you can tell. Since day one, the only constant that I've really been into is station trading. So I'm one of those spreadsheets in space guys. And when I'm not doing that, I live mostly in wormholes. I do a bunch of PI, a little bit of cloaky PvP, and exploration, that sort of stuff. So I'm much more focused on PvE, but with a little PvP sprinkle in there every once in a while. Currently flying with Einstein-Rosen Brigade, although I've just recently joined them because my old corp got kicked out of the C1 that we were living in. We got evicted, and so yeah, just recently joined them, and also recently started streaming. What I'm doing is I am teaching alpha players how to station trade. So what we've been doing the last month on the stream is essentially taking a fresh alpha account and taking it to 3 billion. So essentially the Plex with station trading only. So more spreadsheets sort of stuff. And yeah. I'm over in Europe, as you can tell by the accent, and that's why if I'm speaking a bit quietly at some point, I'm trying not to wake up my family.
Yes, it is late for you over there, and I appreciate you giving us the time. How about you, Dawn? A little bit about yourself. How long you've been playing, who you fly with?
I've been playing since about August 2016, so almost 4 years. My corporation is Sundering, which is one of the oldest corps in Goonswarm, and I am obviously flying under the Goonswarm Alliance. I have been in Goonswarm for about 3 years, and pretty much started hanging out in this home defense area maybe a month after jumping down to Delve, and I've been engaging in there ever since. I'm mostly PvE because I like to Oracle mine, but I also am a logistics pilot, so I usually run the logistics groups whenever we're having the big fleet fights. So if you pay attention, you'll probably see me out there in a lot of fights.
Excellent. And Aezekiel, how about a little bit about yourself?
So I've been playing Eve since about 2004. I've had a couple different mains and liquidated a few tunes, but Zeke was the account that I kind of gravitated toward. Started out in our DS, if you can believe it, back in those days. Did a lot of bomber fleets, flew with a lot of those old school FCs. Kind of came up through the ranks there. For the last 2.5 years, I've been in a corp called the Black Row Bandits. We've been in Slice Alliance in Nullsec. We've been in Frat throughout the Southern War of last year. And most recently, we've joined Vindictive Alliance. And I have the pleasure of serving as the Sky Marshal currently for Vindictive Alliance. And we are obviously in Legacy Coalition, part of Ultron. So it's been a wild ride, and I definitely enjoy all the fruits of nullsec the most. I'm not much of a PvEer myself. I pretty much only PvP, so admittedly a little wallet tanking every now and again, and lots of exploding ships. So that's mostly the focus.
Yeah, your group is interesting because you were with Fraternity for most of that Southern War, and then at the conclusion of that war, you were faced with a decision to either stay with Fraternity and leave the Torrid, your home region, or make another move. And your move was to come back to Legacy side. Vindictive as an alliance was in Legacy prior to the war, or maybe just as the war broke out.
So Vindictive actually didn't exist until F-Off was, I believe, leaving Evictus. So
That's right.
F-Off is a corp, which is easily our largest corporation. Big shout out to those boys. They were in Evictus before. They moved over and formed Vindictive to join Winterco as Winterco members, and they occupied a little pipe in Torrid space. And then we moved to Cache, actually with cooperation from Winterco to sort of pave the road for an eventual evac from that war. And so Vindy kind of ended up playing a neutral state after we left Winterco. And that was some interesting politics and diplomacy there. And then, yeah, making the decision to come back to Legacy, I think, was a good one, from what we can tell. We're enjoying it so far.
Yeah, and speaking from personal experience, Fed Up and Vindictive are neighbors in the Immensity region and have been working very closely together on things like home defense. So let's get into that a little bit, because home defense is difficult lately, especially since Sino changes. I mean, the way it used to be is like you're out there in your Oracle and you're mining away, and bad boys come in and tackle your stuff. Well, you just light a Sino and scream for help, right? The old adage, like, put your drones in the We2, light your Sino, scream for help. That does not exist anymore because your Oracle can no longer light a Sino. So I want to ask both of our guests today, what is it that you do, first of all, to prep? How has your prep changed? What are you training your people to do in a home defense situation post all these changes? Maybe start with Dawn.
Okay. In Goonswarm, we obviously have a well-known super cap umbrella, and when the changes started coming out, all the big boys in leadership started brainstorming about what was realistic for us to actually help out people and to help themselves. So when sign-on changes happened, the expectation became, you are going to meet us 50% of the way. We will try to help you if you help yourself. So most of our pilots are required to have some sort of way for us to get to them on field somewhere. Not going to disclose where, but they have to have a Sino on field somewhere so we can come and help. If they don't, I can't guarantee that they're going to live. We try to have pilots available to help people, but it's an expectation of we're putting our 16, 15, 20 billion, 60 billion, 200 billion-ish ships on the line to save these people. The least they can do is put at 500 mil or less recon somewhere on grid. So that's the starting point, is they need to be prepared for us to help them, because it's going to happen. Stuff comes to Delve every single day. This is not an if, but a when.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's not, you're going to be attacked at some point in your PvE career, right? So you're requiring them to have an alt account, essentially, right?
They need to have something available, whether it be a group of them working together or your own individual pilot. But you need to have something available for us to get to you quickly. How you want to work that out is on you.
All right. Do you require them to be in some sort of comms or a standing fleet?
We always have standing fleets up. We have a standing fleet up anytime home defense is running. They are required to join it when they're needing us to help. We do have a comms channel for home defense, which is well known. It's a public channel that anybody can sit in all day. They're not required to stay in there all day, but they are expected to know how to get in there and ask for help when they need help. We've created a couple different places to try and make it as easy as possible. We have translators. A lot of people in channel can translate different languages because we do have Russians, we do have Chinese, we've got a couple French. We've had 1 or 2 French come in, and we try to have somebody available to talk with them. If not, you start getting creative with Google Translate, and we try to help everybody. We're not discriminatory when it comes to saves. As long as you've put the effort out and you've tried, we want to help.
Yeah, for sure. And I've seen that difficulty in global standing fleets, language barriers, and things of that nature. Other than supers and capitals, is there a go-to doctrine, like maybe a rapid response doctrine? And you don't have to necessarily reveal what that is, but is there like this is what happens? We get tackled by a skirmish gang, we get a subcap fleet, and then if we can, we get capitals, or is there an escalation, or you just drop the hammer?
Yeah, it depends, honestly. What's being attacked and who's there. We get Philly fleets all day, which are 5 to 15 man fleet. Oracle can take care of that on their own by themselves. We don't even need to go help. They'll be fine.
Philly fleet? You mean the filaments?
Yeah, that's what they're called.
Yeah, it's fine.
We call them Philly fleet. If it's a bigger fleet like bombers or the Lokis that like to show up, the response is going to be based upon what's on the field. We do have some doctrines that we use. I'm sure you've seen the kill mills of them. But we like to have if we've got the time, we will ping for a support and have the capitals on standby. The capitals are as you said, the hammer to punch in the nail if we need it. If we've got the time, we love giving our skirmish commanders the experience to fight right in our backyard, quick form. And the positive of having so many people available to you is you have the flexibility on what types of fleets to run. So we have at our disposal 3 to 4 frigate destroyer size doctrines that we can call on, and we can usually get on average 100 to 150 people to pop in and get in and go. We don't necessarily need that many all the time, but that's it. That's a benefit of being so large, is you do have a wide variety of options in your disposal. I would assume if you're a smaller group, you've got to specialize more in how you're going to save people.
Yeah, and you mentioned Philly fleets, or as some people call them, yeet fleets, or whatever it is. People using the new filaments to randomly transport themselves into a region of nullsec. And the signal ones, right, are the ones that are transporting people to higher military indexes, right? Which often,
I believe so.
Yeah, often means your space, right? As one of the more active regions. So
we're focused towards active regions, and Delve is one of the most active, so we get them all day.
Right. So talk to me about where threats come from, because in my experience, really, threats aren't coming from 15 jumps out anymore, where you can see them at a choke point and you got scouts reporting an intel. They do, but more often the threat is these filament fleets and wormholes, right? Rage rolling wormholes.
Yeah.
So,
and they get kills. It happens. And that's kind of the cost of doing business for us. For us, threats come from wormholes is the biggest one. And the filament fleets are so small, like they're only a concern to a subcap or a carrier. Most Rorquals and most supers are not scared of them unless they brought Leshaks. And even then, if they've prepared properly, it should not be a problem for us. It's the big fleets like the 100-man bomber fleets that come to Delve every other day. That's what we see the most, and they come from wormholes, usually Theta, and they take out ships. Sometimes we kill them, sometimes they kill us, and they really having something like that really tests us. But the other is we have NPC Delve right there that can hit almost every part of Delve. So a lot of our enemies like to stash ships there, whether it be dreads or bombers, and they can hit anywhere. And so we have to be prepared, watching and keeping track of who's like where they're moving around, who are their hunters. So a lot of people, regulars in our channel, get to know who the hunters are, and we just try to be as prepared as we can be.
Yeah, do you have like a dedicated set of people watching for, like, you know, maybe Volta is spun up in Thera and rage rolling holes? Do you have like people sitting in Thera looking for activity, or sitting in NPC space and looking for the guys to log in, that kind of thing?
Well, as you know, Goonswarm has a very big spy network. So we know what's going on most of the time. Very rarely is whatever happens a surprise. Unless it's like right before downtime when no one's on. But we know a lot about what's going on, so we try to get pre-prepared. We know when they're coming. It still sometimes doesn't matter because the crabs out there will still do what they want to do, but we try to be prepared. Biggest threats is wormholes, though, just because they can spawn in any system, so that can slow us down sometimes.
Yeah. How about you, Zeke? Going to a little bit smaller scale, same sort of problems in your space, though, right? So we got, you know, groups like Volta, Inner Hell, Odin's Call, pieces of Goonswarm or Imperium. Wormholes are a very popular attack vector, whether it's the frigate holes, drifter holes, rage rolling from Thera. Like, you see that as the most prevalent vector of attack?
Oh yeah. I mean, I was actually kind of noting to myself how many of those same threats are also threats to us, just because of the convenience of current wormhole mechanics. You know, those groups can basically choose where they want to go, and with a little bit of concerted effort, they can pretty much go where they want to go. And so where there's food, the fish will travel, right? So we've definitely seen these guys on a daily basis, the same way that our Imperium friends have done. I think any block will say the same. I'm sure Horde are in the same boat. I'm sure all the Pan Fam, Winter Co, when they're logged in. So I mean, there's lots of, I think, because there's so much content and it's at arm's length for all these wormhole groups, we're going to keep seeing them as long as the mechanics facilitate it. And I think it's a great challenge, like was mentioned. For us, it's more than just testing us, right? Like, it's a constant survival need in order to beat these groups and make some money. You know what I mean? So for a medium-sized or a large-sized, not a super-sized group that can't rely at all hours of the day on its own umbrella, it is a different experience. I think basically the biggest difference that I can see is that we expend more of our resources in order to combat any given threat, whatever that happens to be. And so, you know, staying vigilant, obviously having that spy network, those kinds of things are super effective. They give us just a little bit of notice. And for us, you know, survival time is all about dividing seconds. So, you know, does the inhib go online? Can we get a Sino on grid? You know, a lot of those same concerns that were mentioned, that we're thinking about all that same stuff and designing subcap groups that you can take 50, 60, 70 guys, you know, the same kind of thing that we can herf really quickly and form. How can you take that and put a doctrine on field with some cap support and push off these same groups that are, you know, being countered by supers and titans in other places? And, you know, with Titan Haw being removed, the Haws being buffed in general on the Haw dreads, I think that's going to be kind of the root of a lot of these changes for these smaller or medium-sized groups.
Yeah, and then where you're at, Legacy is somewhat different from Imperium in the way that you don't quite have the density of people, and the swath of space that is Legacy is much greater. Right? So we don't have great jump ranges to all over the place. So it's sort of like each region within legacy sort of has to come up with their own defense to these kinds of groups, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. No, and I think that's, I mean, we're certainly, it's going to take a lot of work with that much infrastructure spread out over that large a space. It's going to take us time to sort of figure out what the best balance is for us, right? And we have been making, I think, some really good strides on that, even just recently. So, yeah, I mean, I'm excited. One of my favorite types of content is fighting these wormhole groups and other nullsec groups that find really good wormholes to us, or, take the time to actually roam to us, or even bring some more of these robust filament fleets. Because we just really enjoy fighting in general as Vindy. So for us, it's about PvP first and foremost. So if there's a fight, we'll take it, so wherever we can take more and better fights is really what we're looking to do. So if protecting oracles also does that for us, then that's great, right? It's a win.
Yeah, for sure. And speaking from my own personal experience in Legacy and Amencia, let's talk about what happens once hostiles arrive. Let's say they've rage rolled their wormhole, they have gotten through and have tackled a group of oracles, let's say. In the past, at least in Amencia, the call would go out over, Voltron Discord. I'm sure similar to Goonswarm's alert mechanism. Everyone gets a ping. Hey, so-and-so is tackled. Sometimes that information is good. Very often it's just, oh my god, I'm tackled. No information about what system you're in or how many people, who, what, when, where, right? So you get this scramble of alliances in the area to form up and get to you. What's striking to me and why that is not going to work, it wasn't ever great, but it sort of used to work before you had these fleets that have become really efficient at killing supers and oracles. Like, you got about 8 minutes to react to save a oracle in most cases if a proper fleet comes through, right? Because panic's only 5, and newts will kill a oracle in just minutes, right? So what are some of the changes you have to make now to make that response quicker and get to the guy who needs defense?
I think some of the changes we've been making recently have been, to make sure that everybody's really paying attention to comms, is active in the standing fleet, is not going AFK in the standing fleet, right? Like, if you're in standing fleet, you're kind of indicating that your numbers are available. And that gives us a good indication of where we can reach people as well. So if we need to, link a separate fleet, or say, check your Discord, we can remind you in game if that's where you're looking. We do have comms as well, so a new emphasis on comms and getting more people together under the umbrella to sort of spread that out. We've obviously, as you know, we've changed some new locations and things like that to kind of better allocate our resources, and I think that's going to contribute a lot. But really, I mean, in my experience, like if Volta tackles a Oracle, I pretty much know within the first 2 minutes if we're going to push them off their Oracle, if their Oracle's going to die, because and it's based on some fundamental information. Do you have a Sino in the system? Does it have fuel? Is it in the right fleet? Do you have a panic module? Do you have all of those things on that checklist that was mentioned earlier? It's like, I think if the Rorqual is doing that work, that homework, then that's the biggest predictor on whether or not the thing lives or dies, right? And same thing with supers, right? Can they get a Sino to it? Do they have the fighters that can kill an inhib so that we can get faxes to the super? Those are the concerns now with the new changes, and it's more difficult because you can't move a standard Sino ship through a gate without being waterboarded. And a lot of the wormhole groups have evolved and adapted to that mechanic. So by default, they are waterboarding out gates and in gates. So, I mean, they adjust and pivot, and we adjust and we pivot, and it's got to be that way.
Yeah, that's sort of what Dawn's point was. Like, if you don't have a Sino with you on grid, the chances you're going to get help reduces drastically. Because do you see that effect too, Dawn? Like, these fleets that are exceedingly good at killing supers and other capitals have like really cut the time you have to react down, even for a large group like the Imperium, right?
They just kill the idiots. That's really what it is. That's absolutely true. The amount of time between us saving people before and after has changed by maybe 30 seconds. The reason why is they always put an inhib at 0 on everything they tackle. So we already were prepared for that. Like they did that before, they do that now. There is almost nothing different about what we have to do to save people, other than getting creative with our alternate sign-up when the Rorqual or the Super fails to have theirs available ready for our instructions. So really, as I said, our response time, because we assume that nobody's prepared, has changed very little. And they've been using the same ships for about 3.5 years, excluding the Kikis. At the moment Kikis came in, they started using those too, but they have no creativity when it comes to attacking Del. So it's always Rorquals, right? It's always Bombers, it's always Kikis or Loki. Those are the 3 ships we get in big fleets constantly. And we've developed fleets to fight those depending upon the situation. A Rorqual's always got that 5 minutes on panic. If he didn't panic, well, there was no way we could help him anyway. And they're always going to inhib them at 0, so that we require their Cyno to be somewhere else on grid where it can't get Cyno, and cloaked up and safe. And then we're positive about Delve is we can usually get another Cyno into system pretty quickly, and then we try to get tackle in, and we try to catch them and kill them. Can't always do that. Sometimes, and that's the decision you have to make. Will this guy live for 5 minutes where I can get a fleet ready and we can try to actually kill these people? Or like, I don't have any time and I need to just get them off this guy, and then we'll deal with trying to catch them on the next person. That's usually the difference between a 1 minute save and a 5 minute save, is what we're doing to them, not if they're going to kill the ship. We're pretty confident as long as the other person doesn't screw up, we can save those people.
Right. Yeah. Talk to me about Cyno beacons. Does that help at all? Get stuff in the system if you have to? Or do they just waterboard that?
They try to waterboard it, but like, oh no, there's a cloaked saber there. We'll just throw 10 assault frigates. Please tell me how your saber is going to deal with that. And we'll just burn out of the bubble and warp over anyways. Like, it's kind of a waste of time, because all you're doing is, I mean, it might help your group, but that saber's not going to fight. The saber's just going to cloak up and run away. It's going to have 1 bubble up, maybe 2. We just burn off to the side or something and go warp wherever we need to warp to do it. The saber's a waste of time. It doesn't help them at all. So I don't know why they bother with it anymore. But yes, they do try to do it every single time.
The smart bomb rogue is a good tactic as well for the smaller groups. You can pop a rack of large smart bombs on it and drive toward the interdiction sphere, and it'll pop it pretty quickly, so you can get caps out.
Yeah, the other thing I noticed is that structure bombs, like on your moon mining group, if you got a Rorqual stuck on a moon, structure bombs are really good about blasting Dictor bubbles off too. Do you think that part of the toolkit for a heavily ratted or heavily mined system should be a Cyno beacon? I've heard that suggested as being something that should be more prevalent as a way to get in on a save.
They're very convenient. I'm not going to tell you how many Goonswarm has, but yes, they're
I'm
very
going to assume
convenient.
in every system you probably have 2 or 3 beacons.
That's not a wrong assumption. But yeah, they're very convenient, very easy. They're not for everybody though, obviously, but they do make things a lot easier. Having an uninhibitable Cyno available to you at all times help. Have we had people die on them? Yeah, because they're not on a keep star. They're not in tether range, so people can still die. But it is nice.
Yeah, I think nullsec, no matter where you are in it, has an idiot tax to some degree.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like when a Rorqual dies, we're like, well, it happened.
Right, so tell me what happens in Goonswarm. So do you go to that person and say, look, man, you were out there by yourself, you had no Cyno, and maybe your ship was fitting properly, do you bother with that process, or is it just, well, you died and that's probably going to teach you a lesson?
It depends on who it is and how often we've had to try and save them for the exact same issue. So, your workable is your personal asset. Everything in space is personal. Like, we don't want it to die. We don't want to give the enemy kills, but if you lose a workable, that's your money, not ours. So, we try to teach if someone does, we try to teach them, like, what did you do wrong? Maybe an aggressive form of teaching from some people, but we do try to teach them. I know I take the time to talk about it with them if they're available. They're not always available. If we see someone having similar behavior who's a big problem, that conversation could be different. But for the most part, if someone dies, they die.
Yeah, and Zeke, you could do all you can to put wikis together with recommended fits. I know FedUp has many process documents about how to prepare yourself, what you should be looking for, but the fact of the matter is people don't read. They buy their Oracle and they go out there and I'm making money, and then they die. Do you go back and try and talk to the pilot? Are there any repercussions or anything like that?
Oh yeah, I mean we don't kill word kick anybody. You lose a super, you lose a Rorqual. It's your property, right? But we and again, I think it's important to note that we're kind of all in it together, right? So when one of us takes a loss, we try and learn from it and figure out how we can all do it better, right? So I think we kind of try and use it like a group teachable moment where we can sort of all huddle around the hows and the whys and the whens and sort of figure out what we could do better the next time.
Yeah, that's good. So talk to me about what goes wrong. Say you got everything that's supposed to set up, right? Guy has a sign-on system, it gets lit, and then things go kaflooey. Where are some of the things that could go wrong, Don? Is there something you could have missed, another group hiding in a wormhole somewhere, or an escalation that you didn't see? What goes wrong during saves?
It's a list. Well, obviously the starters are the pilot that's getting attacked is not prepared. They don't get on comms. They don't communicate very well what's going on. But at this point, we're just like, we understand. We prefer them to work with us, but we've had to work around it multiple times. The biggest thing that can go wrong is the backup sinos not getting in place properly. Sometimes you just can't help it. Or the person who was dying didn't actually give you good info about or when they panicked, or if they're running out of cap, things like that. That's why that's usually why our motto is if we can't really get good info, they either A, die, and we try to kill the enemy, or B, we'll save them and try to kill the enemy. But it may be the hammer coming down real fast and just getting the bad guys to go away versus actually trying to set a trap for the enemy. We have that mentality, like Rorschach, where he's like, I'm not trapped here. I'm not trapped in here with you. You're trapped in here with me. That's usually kind of how Delve is. Other than that, it's usually down to enemy or person getting attacked, their pilot error. There's a few times where we get surprises from the enemy, but they usually only work once.
Who makes that call? What type of response you do? Do you have a typical hierarchy? This is coming from someone who's not in the big.
It depends on what's going on. So, I can call for a lot of stuff myself, but there's certain things I can't do. A lot of times, if the big groups, like the big 100-man bar gangs and stuff, are coming, one of the higher ups FCs will just come and sit in channel and hang out to be ready and available when we need it. If none of that's happening and it's just little, anyone that's a skirmish commander can come in and take a shot at it. If I think they're doing a bad job, I'll step over and tell them to sit down. But for the most part, we want to give them that opportunity to learn when there's not that much at risk on the table. Now, if there's a lot of stuff going on, or we've had situations where it's something new, we didn't know what to do, and I reach out to one of the bigger FCs. We have a channel where they can reach out. People can reach out for one of the bigger FCs who can run the supers and the titans, can come in and try to take care of the situation. We have actually a good number of people through most time zones that can take over if need be. And honestly, having stuff come regularly to Delve is really good for everyone, because peace breeds complacency, and complacency leads to death. So having things come kind of keeps us on our toes.
And then you have that aggressive, what did you call it earlier? Aggressive form of
teaching. Well, that's not me. I'm usually very nice about it. But sometimes, like, if your kill mill is like ridiculously dumb, then you might get pinged about it and laughed at and joked. But if you can't take, I mean, you really have to learn how to take a joke. Like, every single FC, every big boy has done something stupid. They've died in something they shouldn't have. They get mocked about it. We bring up old things from 4 or 5 years. We all joke around, and it's a way to kind of stick in your mind, let's not do that again. Let me learn from this. Some people don't take that well. They got too much ego to take it well. And then there's the super aggressive form of teaching where we've tried to save you multiple times. We might end up just killing you ourselves. That doesn't happen often, but that does happen.
I love it. Like, what would cause that? What would you go out there and see a guy doing the same thing for like the 5th time? Like, what brings on the tough teaching?
Like that, just doing the same thing over and over again, making our lives in Theta difficult to try and save you. We understand sometimes you just live in a system where they frequent, and there's nothing you can do to help. The biggest thing is when you come in screaming at us about how we didn't save you. That's like that doesn't happen very often. I've had that twice. That doesn't go very well.
Only twice? Because I sort of wanted to get into that, because I see that, I don't know, fairly often. People get upset, like, yo, where was my save? Where were you guys? Yeah, you don't get that often?
They might write it, but actually coming in and saying it, not often. Most of the time, the people that died, they weren't already in comms anyways, so they weren't even asking for help. But it does happen every now and then, and we usually just talk, yell at him until he understands what he needed to do. But a lot of times those people are not the type of people that are there for Goonswarm. We're all here to help each other out. Whether you like the next person next to you or not, it's not a problem, because there's almost 3,000 of us. So you can find a group of people you enjoy. And even if you don't want to help the other person, it's really fun killing bombers and kikis. So that's also the other side. Is some people just like to kill other things. They don't care if they save the person. It's a means to an end.
Right. What about you, Zeke? You get anybody screaming at you like, "Oh my God, I was tackled and I said I needed help and I didn't get help"? Is that a thing?
I think that there are certainly times when we screwed the pooch and somebody dies and we go hey man, we tried to farm and it just wasn't there. You're gonna die on this one, pal. It's kind of stuff like that. But I don't think in general, we don't have a culture where there's lots of screeching per se. So for us, it's really more just we try and figure out how we can learn from the mistakes we did make, see what we did well, and not praise ourselves too hard, but recognize that we tried and move along. So it's keeping it humble, keeping it moving, and I think those are the two things. And again, I what really resonated with me was that the comment about that Don made about complacency and peace. I think that's absolutely true. Whether you're the largest entity in the game or the smallest, trying to cut your teeth, persistence and staying hungry, I think is kind of the goal. So if we put that motive behind all the goals we set for growth, then we'll either get there or we won't, but we're gonna do our best while we get there. So I mean, I don't know, I think in general we've been working pretty hard this last year to kind of figure out how these things work, Lokis are sig tankers. They're quick, they're hard to hit, and they do massive alpha damage. So things that can withstand large amounts of alpha with good buffer, that can be repped with faxes or subcap reps, and then just trying to push the grid. That's kind of been the modus operandi for pushing off groups like Volta and what have you. So we're going to keep doing it if it works.
The answer is just more supers.
Yeah, for sure. No. If I could,
we're trying, Dawn. Okay.
Undock supers and get 30 nixes, we'd be having a completely different conversation. But
I don't always get that.
We're trying.
Sometimes it's only 15.
Oh. Anyway, how about some funny stories? Like, Zeke, I wanted to talk a little bit about on air about what happened the other day with your Oracle and a Doomsday, because that to me was a case of keeping it light, man. And like, you did some things right, and then one thing wrong, and it didn't really turn out the way you wanted it, but we made it fun anyway. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, so that I wasn't there for that fleet. As I understand it, the pilot got a chance to jump out. YOLO jumped out and then got tackled on our Keepstar grid in our forming system.
Oh yeah, he broke free of tackle.
Yeah, that's always good fun,
and
right?
Then he jumped to a beacon right next door.
Right, and so then the decision was made, all right, I mean, are we going to take some of these bitches with us? Are we going to do this thing? And so, I mean, apparently the pilot didn't hesitate, made the call, said, DD me right now. It spooled up, and the kill mails are the result. So a lot of fun was had. And I think if we forget that it's a game, and I'm guilty of this too, I think if we forget that it's the game, that's when it's gone too far. That's when we're trying too hard, or maybe putting too much effort in the wrong thing, right? So keeping it light and keeping it fun, I think, is always a good way to kind of keep those priorities straight and remember who you are.
Yeah, I mean, I love it. For viewers that don't know what we're talking about, he jumped to a beacon on a Keepstar grid, one jump away. So the enemy was like, "Oh, just jump through the gate," and was able to re-tackle him before he can align and warp to the Keepstar. So on grid was a bunch of Lashaks and stuff, pricey stuff, that were obviously going to kill the Oracle eventually. The Doomsday off a Keepstar is like a ricochet weapon, right? It'll hit the primary target and then ricochet by mass across several targets. So the Oracle pilot said, "You know what? Screw it, let's have some fun." Doomsday me, it ricocheted to a bunch of Lashaks and took them down with him. I thought it was hilarious. And it turned out to be almost as positive, or it's neutral at least, because those Lashaks aren't cheap for wormhole gangs.
If he had sieged up, he could have survived that DD, because I've been DD'd twice in my Oracle and I survived.
Can't siege up without...
You can see.
Yeah, you could core. You can't panic.
Core up.
Not a Care Bear. Don't ask me on Care Bear concerns, right?
So cored up, had his partners on.
Mm-hmm.
I-Core could have been on. I don't know why he didn't put it on. I'll have to ask him.
Yeah, because that adds so much HP, and then the DD would have taken him into hull, but he would have survived, and they would have been dead.
I'd be interested to know what his tank was at when he did the YOLO jump. When
it's possible he was near death when we broke him free of the tackle. So
a good time was had, though. They were talking about it for a couple days. So
we're still talking about it. Hey, remember that?
Yeah, here we are.
What about you, Dawn? Any funny things like that happened during a save where you're like, well, that didn't turn out the way I expected it, but cool?
Yeah, it's not on Reddit, but you can see the Aezekiel. This was just more really? And the pilot was on comms with us, so it was just, he was like, "I'm sorry, whoops." So we say, one of our FCs was running around saving people. These two Oracles got tackled. We saved them. They're chilling out, just de-sieging. He decycles. He's getting ready to warp off. He wasn't in a fleet. The enemy invited him to a fleet, and the guy thought that our FC was inviting him to a fleet. Warped him off and killed him. He was able to get one Oracle out, but the other one didn't make it. So after all the effort we went in to save, because this was 3 saves in, we're jump. 3 saves in, we saved the guy, everything's great, and then he follows the oldest trick in the book, which is get invited to a fleet by an enemy FC and gets warped off.
Doubt you were there,
Yeah.
man.
And like I was like, and he's in comms. He's like, oh crap, oh.
Yeah, smashing that control spacebar as fast as he can. Yeah. Oh,
Was he
boy.
new?
Nah, not new. But we were like, okay, well, next time, either be in a fleet already or don't accept fleet invites unless you're specifically told. Because like it tells you which FC is inviting. Our FCs aren't like hidden. They don't use a ton of alts per se. Like some of them do, but most of them use the people you know they're on. And it's just like, great, thanks.
Right, if you don't know this guy, you probably shouldn't accept his fleet invite.
Probably shouldn't accept the fleet of yes. So that was pretty funny. He was getting yelled at, and we're just like, he's like, I'm sorry, it's my fault.
Oh boy. Anything else anybody wants to mention on this topic before we go to a couple of news bites that we have? Oz, any other questions you have?
No, I mean that situation with the fleet. I've seen that happen many times, and I think the first time it happens, it's you can have a laugh. At least the guy fessed up to it, right? And didn't blame anyone.
No, he was pretty cool about it.
Yeah, those are one of those lessons that he probably won't do that again.
Never.
You'd be surprised. Sometimes you can't just help it. Sometimes things just happen. But yeah, it was pretty funny. Later at the time, we were all like, "Oh man!"
Truth. All right, if there's nothing else about home defense, in the last bit of their show, there's been some news. Go ahead.
I guess I had one last question. Do you have in terms of numbers, right? Does everyone jump on the opportunity to defend, or do you kind of have to corral everyone to jump in there?
For us, depends on how many people are on, but usually we'll ask for a certain number, and we'll usually get double that.
Nice, must be nice.
Well, and then some. It's rare that we have the other problem, but sometimes it does happen. But yeah, we're usually like, we need these types of ships to jump. Everybody else wait, and then like
everyone jumps anyway.
Yeah.
You get 3 faction titans when you're like, what? I said harpies.
Yeah, I don't like that.
Because it's good content, or?
No, yeah, they all want Killmark on their ship, so they all get really excited. And so they all just try to jump in and get them.
That happened to me once, right? I had some my oracles tackled. I called for help, and this was during the Southern War. So FedUp had the luxury of living underneath the Test Super Umbrella for a couple of months, so we could work mine pretty freely there. During one incident, I got tackled, and Test was forming their own fleet, their own defense fleet. We lit a Sino anyway, just to have a Sino lit. One of my guys jumps in his Titan, knowing that Test is coming, right? So he feels safe, but he jumps to my Sino, which is in the middle of the moon grid. And Arbiter, if you're listening, it's funny. He bumps off a rock and starts launching into space. Test drops their Titans and starts lancing to try and kill Kiki's lancing, and lances the shit out of my Titan. It nearly killed him. I'm like, oh god. Wrong Sinobot, and I didn't say jump your Titan, did I? So funny things do happen during saves.
Yeah, we always recommend don't have expensive pods just in case.
Yeah, you never know when that doomsday will just go off. What about you, Zeke? Any other thoughts on saves? Anything funny? Any other comments on it?
I mean, I think we covered it. It's sometimes they can go really bad though. I mean, like when I was in Frat, we in the EU US time zone, when the Chinese were asleep, we would get stuff tackled all the time, oracles and supers and things like that. And our home defense picture was very different from what the Chinese were able to do, right? So again, the same kind of smaller tactic fighting, but even then we had the luxury of dropping like hot titans and supers and stuff. So it was a lot more convenient, right? But several times I've dropped my hot titan in and gotten almost manhandled by Seto or something, or just got lucky enough with the bosun to get him off me. But it can be really dicey out there. So playing fast and loose, great way to lose a Titan.
Mm-hmm. All right. There's a few news bits that happened this week, namely the ecosystem outlook. CCP put out a little bit of an article regarding some plans for retooling how the economy / ecosystem looks in Eve. You guys get a chance to read that at all? It's pretty crazy.
Pretty stupid. It's my opinion.
Yeah, so I want to get your thoughts on that.
Why do you say that?
Because I Rorqual mine, and I just bought a really pretty skin for my Rorqual, and now it's a giant hunk of uselessness. So I'm not happy about this starvation and stuff like that. I understand.
Yeah, explain.
The reason.
So why all of a sudden is the Rorqual not good?
Because they've changed all the rocks in all of the major Aenon. Rorquals could mine it. And now they've messed with the moon. We knew they were doing it, so we were mining away to be prepared. But they have reduced the amount of... There's no regular ore in moons anymore. And all they did was replace them, not even 100%, like, to R4s for most moons. R64s, I think, are like R16s or something, so they're not that terrible. They actually got a buff. But all the, like, moderate and smaller moons, the ones that I own, are all like trash. So, because HiSec has these moons, so the HiSec miners can mine those in almost perfect safety, and so they just mine R4s all day. I understand why they've got to do it, because we have a lot of money in the game. I just, personal preference. I really wish they didn't mess with rocks and mining and stuff like that, but I get why they did it.
Well, yeah, it's pretty severe, right? So the case is in your normal mining Aenon, they've like whacked the amount of ore on the rocks tremendously to they're only just a little bit, the small tiny rocks. So you can't just put a Rorqual. There's not one rock anymore in an Aenon that's worth putting a Rorqual on, because you can mine it in a few cycles of a barge, right?
Yeah.
And on the moon grid, moons often is not where the Rorqual shines, right? Because the moon grid is over 200 kilometers or more. You can't compress moon goo, which is one of the strengths of the Rorqual, and you got to move around a lot because those rocks aren't big either. And now you can't get the ABC ore out of them. So yeah, Rorqual pilots are like, shit. Like, where do I sit my Rourke now and do my time, right? Because the power of a Rourke is exponential mining over time, which is not really the case right now in nullsec mining.
Now, the harder part is when you spend 2 years plus skilling into these ships because you want to, get to what other people have been doing, and it's like, wah, wah. There goes literally 2 years of my training down the drain.
Yeah, 2 years, so. and the prospect of the wealth you would have been making based on what other people were, right? So now you wanted to be the guy to participate in that super fleet. So you trained your Rorqual first so that you can either mine the rocks to build it yourself or mine the rocks to get the wealth to put yourself in a super that you can afford to lose in combat. And now that method right now doesn't exist.
Yeah. I mean, I know that everything changes with time because Rorquals weren't always like this. It's just tough when that's what you worked for, and now you got to either figure it out or do something else.
So does the article that came out, though, and the talk around town give you some hope, though? Is like, this seems to be a starvation phase to lead to something later, maybe something more procedurally generated as far as what the distribution of mining enoms look like. If you mine a lot in one area, maybe you have to move to another area. Maybe this isn't obviously the permanent state of things.
Well, it would be more comforting if we had like an idea of how long this starvation is going to be, but since they haven't said it, there's a lot of uncertainty. It's like, well, this could be 2 months, this could be 2 years at CCP's rate, so we'll see.
That's why I like that they came out with this this blog post or whatever you want to call it, though, because at least now they're communicating a little bit. And as in before, they weren't communicating at all. And if it continues moving with this trajectory, I think we will get a little bit more transparency out of them. And because what they are basically saying in this is that they have understood that the ecosystem is central to the game, and they are saying that they do need to regulate the ecosystem to how they call it, provide a fair and vibrant playground full of diverse and rewarding opportunities for all players. And so they and the third thing is that they and that's what you see on the screen right there, is that they are giving themselves terrible grades right now in those three areas, the first one being balance and progression, the second economy and industry, and the third cheating and abuse. So the only one where they're saying they have made really strides is in the cheating and abuse area, and in the other two they really haven't made any improvements, and have taken a few actions, but they were more smaller actions. And now we're getting into the heavy stuff with the scarcity phase, the factual warfare LP payout, and that sort of stuff. And Dawn, I totally understand about the there's some individuals that get heavy hit because they have prepared for that, and that's true. I guess that's the sacrifice they have to make for to make the ecosystem work in the long term for the vast majority of players, right?
So we'll see what happens.
What about you, Zeke? Because talking with other legacy groups, I think legacy is an interesting position in the fact that we don't tap most of our space. Right, so we're like spread way across. Like even Fed Up as an alliance has systems we don't tap. So it's something that we could probably easier adapt to by scaling down a little bit, and then just spreading smaller mining groups across these systems we've never mined before. But how do you guys view all this stuff, and how does it impact you?
I mean, right now, the way that we use our systems, we actually use all of our systems. So it's a thing that we're already kind of used to. I think probably that will change even more in that we'll be rotating. But we already, I mean, with moon mining, we already use rotating schedules and things like that to mine and to move resources from different areas in our space. So I think we'll probably continue that on the alliance scale, and probably most alliances in Legacy will. I would say the coalition is really well positioned, honestly, because of the size of our holdings, to be making money during that eventual dynamic kind of resource reallocation. So I'd be interested to see how they change it. And again, to Oz's point, I think I'll be interested also to see if they continue the good, forthcoming communication, because that's been a big one, a big indicator on whether or not people stick around. And I see that their priorities were to re-engage veterans by creating scarcity and by creating conflict through that scarcity. And so if that's kind of the mission there, then I fully support it, and I wish them luck.
Yeah, I think it was a decent communication. There's a lot of info there, and if there's one thing that the CCP has done over the last year, at least, is that everything is very iterative. So this is one iteration on what we hope is a grander plan. And
I mean, these look like PowerPoint slides straight out of a CSM presentation or something like that.
Yeah, you're right. I was thinking that myself, that like this was definitely a think tank meeting notes kind of thing. But if the CSM is involved with these discussions, then it makes me feel a little bit better too.
They said that these three areas they got out of the quarterly survey. So that's what they say in the introduction paragraph up there somewhere, that it's all based on the survey, at least the prioritization of the areas that they're tackling. And cheating was very high up there, and that's why they started with that. Then again, if you were holding this presentation and you show the slide where you have three areas and two of them you haven't really improved that much on, then it's also could be interpreted as a kind of a stalling communication. But I'll give them the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, for sure.
Imperium will be fine. We own 4 regions. We've got choices.
Oh yeah, for sure.
It'll be fine. It's fine.
And change is good for the game.
It is on the macro level, but I can hear Dawn's point that, and even in my own alliance, some people are like, great, just got a Oracle, was about to go out to the enormous, doesn't exist anymore. Thanks, CCP. You get that. And then I get people saying I get people right now saying, why don't I just go to HiSec if I want to be a miner then?
Yeah.
So sort of you got to get your members through that. I explained to my members, like, consider this like blackout, right? Like we gotta weather the storm and get to the next step. I'm sure there's something else, but we have to adapt and get to the next step, right? Don't give up on it. But that's easier said than done when, like Dawn said, they could just go mine the same stuff in HiSec and do it, maybe without a Oracle, obviously, but they can do it and at least be a lot safer.
Well, I can't go to HiSec. I'll die instantly. I'm at war with everybody.
Yeah, those of us who war deck. But, when people say that, it sounds to me like they're considering leaving or pulling their alts out at least and going to some other non-war deckable group for that,
Well, you just start getting creative with trying to make it work. As long as you're still ahead of everybody else, you're still winning.
Yeah.
I think it's funny how on the sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I thought it was funny in that communication that they didn't name blackout under the cheating and abuse section, because obviously, based on the graphs that they have shown lately, that was the biggest action they took against cheating and abuse. But they want to sweep that under the rug.
Yeah, I don't think they want to market that so much as an anti-cheating thing either. I don't know, but yeah, sort of it didn't go well, so we'll just let that one go, right?
Yeah, but then they couldn't help showing that graph that showed botting revenue go to zero during one of those polls videos, and that's hilarious, because the only reason they would want to do that is to show, hey, see, look, there was something good in it.
True. Anyway, in other news though, we had the community run or privately run website Tripwire, widely used by wormholers and others to sort of map your way through wormholes and other things. Due to stress put on it by the COVID-19 outbreak, was considering shutting down, and the community came together and saved it. Oz, you want to talk a little bit about that? Because I think that's a really great community story.
Yeah, I got an opportunity to speak to Damian Mercer earlier, who's the guy running Tripwire, and I'm in their Discord and thought it was a really, really positive sign out of the EVE community yet again that somebody like that says, hey, I can't really afford to pay the server costs anymore, and within what seemed like minutes, enough people came together and pitched in, and now he's got at least enough to go on for another 3 or 4 months, and maybe that will be enough for this whole crisis to be over, and for the Patreon donators to get in there, and maybe at that point, if you're using Tripwire and you don't, I see Damien in chat. Hey man. If you are using it, go support it. It's a great tool. Thanks, Damien.
Yeah, thank you, Damien. And I'm glad the community was able to help. And, it goes to any third-party tool that's widely used. If you use it, you like it, it helps you, consider donating it, because it's a lot of time people put into that. Personal time, personal money to keep those tools going and enriching your game experience. So, I like that story.
He's saying in chat $500 in less than an hour. So
fantastic. Yeah. That's really great.
Awesome.
And well deserved, man. The tool's been around a long time. Lots of people use it. Makes gameplay better. So glad to see that. Usually end the show with announcing the upcoming EVE meets, and there are a bunch. But again, I know that the world is sort of on hold for a lot of these things, so I don't know the actual status of many of these. Like Eve New Orleans is supposed to be coming up in May, the 22nd. I don't know the status of that, but you might want to check into that. Eve North in Canada side of Niagara is scheduled for June 26th. Eve Northeast in New York is August 7th, and Eve Vegas, the player run event, October 23rd. I like to promote these because it's fantastic to get to know people, even if you're reserved about meeting game people. I've had nothing but great experiences going to Eve meets, and it's something you should all check out. Before we wrap up, one thing we like to do in the midweek show is go down the panel and ask them to tell our listeners something they may not know about EVE Online. It could be mechanics, it could be lore, it could be personal experience, anything you could think of that somebody may not know. Oz, you got anything? And we usually leave this as a little bit of a surprise, so anything that people may not know about EVE Online?
Well, since I mentioned at the beginning of the show that I'm doing a lot of alpha trading on stream right now, and what I'm surprised many people don't know is that you need to outsource your buy orders if you care about making margins in station trading. And what I mean by that, I'm sure most veterans know this, but if you want to save, especially now with all the relisting fees that you have to pay every time you put in an order and you relist an order, consider going to one of the player-run stations that is one jump out from a trade hub, and put in your buy orders there with a range of one jump. What that will lead to is everyone, or at least 99% of people that are fulfilling your buy orders will end up selling in the major trade hub, and you can just sell it on from there. It's really simple, and there are some reasons against it, whether you want to not support a rivaling alliance, or whether you don't feel safe about your stuff in there. I've been doing it for years, and I have literally saved billions. So if you're not doing that right now, with the relisting fees coming from the broker relations changes, go do it if you are a serious trader.
Yeah, interesting. I don't do much trading. I didn't really know that mechanic, but awesome. How about you, Dawn? Anything people may not know about EVE Online?
This is something I revealed before, but it's been a while, so I figured people may not remember. If you are a Rookwell and you have a barge next to you mining for Coxit or whatever, that barge can be stored no matter what into your work, as long as it's not aggressed or has anything in its hold. So you can be pointed, scrammed, webbed, nuded, 10% struck, throw it right in your ship and warp your pod away to safety.
Yeah,
and there's absolutely nothing they can do.
Good way to save your Hulk. Like, oh shit, my Hulk! Just store ship in the Rourke's belly and warp off in your pod. Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of people think that you can't do it if someone's shooting you, but you can. So easy peasy way to save your ships.
I guess I'll go next, and again, I think I've said this before, but Don, along the same lines, in your Roracle, you can store hauler ships, like even T2 hauler ships, right? Because they're industry ships. So you can have an industry ship that you spit out, somebody jumps in it and can light a industry Sino, which you can then panic. Now, it doesn't help that much, but at least you have a Sino now that you can blops in regular Sino ships. Does this help at all in defense? Have you seen this used before? To have like an unassailable Sino that's panic protected for 5 minutes, that at least you can blops in a recon and light a Sino if need be?
If you've already got a pilot who can be a Sino in system on grid with you, why isn't he just in a recon? Because they're gonna drop an inhibit 0 every time. So unless you can do that in under a minute, it's not really plausible. It is something you could for sure, but we've never done it that I know of, because it's just not likely to happen.
Yeah, for me, I get all of my guys that have alts are in mining ships, not sparing one for a Sino. So no, we've never done it either, but it is an interesting mechanic that
it is something you could.
What about you, Zeke? Anything that people may not know about EVE Online?
There's a tactic that I've seen used a couple times, and that's certainly used pretty frequently on Serenity. That a mutual friend of ours, Silver, gave me, and I won't go too much in because it's a little bit of a rabbit hole of different tactics. But the fleet regroup function can be used by the FC in conjunction with fleet warp 2 mechanics to create some really effective fleet formations that are kind of non-traditional. So they're not just your standard anchor up, keep it range, turn your prop mods on, hit F1 kind of thing. So Veni Vidi Vici actually use similar tactics very, very frequently and to good effect, especially on home defense. So definitely worth reviewing tape on those guys and kind of figuring out what I mean.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, you can do fun stuff with that. Any other comments from the panel on anything we've talked about today before we wrap up the show?
I would like more people to bring more filament fleet because they're fun to fight, and we don't drop supers on them every single time. So if you bring something fun, we'll bring something fun.
I do think that's mostly true because I've flown through Delve many times. My favorite ship to fly through Delve, by the way, Dawn, I don't know what time zone you're really playing, but we bring Punishers, Blaster Punishers, through Delve and have hilarious times with you guys because it's like it's just a fleet of T1 frigates. You got to be kidding me. The things you throw at them are a lot of fun.
Yeah, you might get a Dreadnought, you might get a Lashak, you might get a Bargain.
Occasionally I get the Titan that's like, yeah, I'm going to doomsday you all.
With what? What are they going to shoot you with? They took the bosons away.
No, it's true. And prior to that, they missed quite often. But
Lances have the range of like a carrot, so.
Yeah, but yeah, that's fun. Anything from you, Zeke? Any parting comments?
Well, thanks for having me on today. Always a pleasure.
All right, I want to thank Oz for co-hosting with me today, and for the viewers, make sure you swing by Talking in Stations Discord. Always a lot of great information to be found there. CCPers in public voice all the time, well-known figures in public voice all the time to answer questions and talk about what's going on. Check out our shows. Matterall is running a daily news segment, which will keep you up to date with everything that's changing rapidly. The Sunday show for the big time news-making events, and then of course us here at the midweek show. That's all we have today. I will see you.
And the trailer tomorrow. So
oh yes, trailer tomorrow, because this weekend would have been FanFest, unfortunately canceled because of COVID concerns. But what was that, Don?
Is that going to be for the one that shows the new Titan model?
The rumor is yes, but I guess we will have to see. But yes, make sure you check that out because I'm sure it'll be fantastic. All right,
and there's a post discussion on this channel.
Yes. Okay, everyone. We'll see you next week in Talking in Stations.
Thanks all.